Hello, everyone. Hope you're keeping safe and healthy. My name is Ali Sayed Mohsen, and it's my utmost pleasure to welcome you to our panel discussion on establishing a fully interoperable standardized 5G landscape. We have our three distinguished panelists for this discussion: Chris Pearson, President of 5G Americas; Pete Wilson, excuse me, Director, Channel Sales, IoT, and Cybersecurity, Telefonica; and Dave Fontenay, Director, Communications and Technology for Orange County Sheriff's Department. Perhaps we can start with Pete. Pete, talking about standardization, could you please shed some light on the importance of standardization across different verticals for 5G, and how critical is it in the adoption of the technology itself in the industry?
Yes, very good question. 5G has introduced us to some new ways of how we are going to be managing connectivity throughout the entire IoT ecosystem. It is a challenge because many of the existing applications in IoT require some key things to scale, and that is coverage and costs. And right now, when we always introduce new technologies, the coverage isn't always there, and the costs are always higher because of the new modules that come out. So we're left ourselves with what we would call a fragmented ability to go between narrowband and existing technologies that we find that are currently out there commercially.
And can Chris, if you can shed some light on the work that you have been doing in 5G Americas and ensuring that standardization is taken seriously and all the stakeholders are on board, be it the telco operators or the IT guys or or the OT guys.
Yeah, well, I think going back to your original question too is really the importance of standardization in mobile communications or communications of any kind is so critical to really getting scale on a worldwide basis. So you look at the success of 3G, 4G technologies, part of that is the standardization process. And that process for our technology really is at 3GPP. So 5G Americas is a market representation partner at 3GPP. We do make contributions to 3GPP. And we support them as a global standards project that brings everyone together from all parts of the world. Because if you start to say, where are we going to go with IoT? Number one, as Pete said, you got to look at cost, coverage, performance, capabilities, and for that to happen, it really needs to have that foundation of standards. And if you start to look at even the numbers, right now we're at 93 5G deployments worldwide. By the end of the year, we expect to get to about 202 deployments commercially. We are starting to see that growth of 5G to commercial deployments. But on the other side, it's like the IoT devices and the smartphones and everything else. That's really going to start to expanding as we move toward 2023. In fact, if you look at 2023, most of the analysts are predicting 5G technology to get about 1 to 2 billion actually connections. So it's all extremely important to build that foundation for 5G standardization, just like we've done with 3G and 4G.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Chris. So Dave, I mean, in your sort of sector, could you please tell how standardization is going to make a difference when it comes to 5G as a technology in terms of adoption?
Well, absolutely, and I couldn't agree more with my two panelists. That is something that's plagued the public sector now for decades with technology. I think oftentimes these technologies come to market in the private sector first, and then they're adapted for the public sector. And what we're hoping with 5G, and we've been working strongly with a number of our partners, is to really get on that bottom platform for standardization, because otherwise we're left with these disparate systems that we spend countless resources to try to get them to work together. So that's got to come first. And there, for our developers, there's a huge market here that I think is being overlooked for the IoT devices, especially when it comes to video. This is going to be huge with analytics and video itself, especially in light of some of the challenges we're seeing across our nation politically right now. That's going to even be more important, and that we adapt these technologies to meet the needs of the ever-changing landscape that we're all left with to police. So that standard has to be adopted. It has to be agreed upon. Otherwise, we end up with this these various platforms that do not work, and we're going to leave a large sector of this market out there untouched. If we can standardize, get that dealt with right off the bat, it's going to be a huge benefit to our partners in this space.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Please, sorry.
You have to think about COVID-19 pandemic
Mm-hmm.
that we're in. And really, I mean, people think about, communication is king right now, right? I mean,
Yes.
Everyone has to be connected to do their job, or even actually to live, or even, my teenage children would say, even to live their lives, right? But it's actually well beyond that. And the standardization is going to be the foundation for going well beyond that, just as my panelists have said, is that you have to look at it from a bigger ecosystem, the ecosystem of IoT, and whether it's video or sensors or other types of things, to make really our community smarter, our company smarter, our city smarter. This has to happen, and at the foundation of that is standards. That's why we support the 3GPP family of technologies and 3GPP organization to do this. But everyone plays a role, and we have to hear all the voices toward that standardization for, again, connectivity is king during COVID-19, but it's going to be well beyond that as we look to the future.
Absolutely, well said. I mean, we're living in sort of what we like to call a new normal, and without connectivity, we wouldn't be basically talking today. So absolutely, connectivity is basically the king. Now, sort of touching upon the same topic, what are like some of the barriers to standardization today? And if I were to ask you, where are we at, along the standardization journey for 5G?
We're making a lot of progress. I mean, obviously, COVID-19 has slowed things down, as you've seen the announcements at 3GPP a little bit. But Release 16, which is the second phase of 5G, did get completed. It's in the pre-stage, and so there'll be some corrections to things. And they've already started to plan for Release 17, although they have said that that's possible that could be delayed a little bit. So things are progressing. Obviously, 3GPP in the past has had a lot of face-to-face meetings, and in most all their technical groups, and because of COVID-19 and the restrictions on travel and make sure the health and safety of all people throughout the world, including the technical experts, they can't have face-to-face meetings. But there is a lot of progress being made at 3GPP as far as standardization. They also are working very closely with ITU. And so ITU is well aware of the progress that's being made at 3GPP. So I would say, given the circumstances of COVID-19 pandemic that we're living, things are progressing very well. And you've seen that through even some of the commercial announcements by the operators that are talking about Release 15 and Release 16 in their roadmaps. Now, Release 17 is a little bit on the earlier stages, which is, I guess you want to call it the third phase of 5G, but things are moving along despite this pandemic. It's just there are some additional challenges.
So thank you guys again.
Thank you.
Thank you.